In this video, I really just want to talk about kind of a simple tip, but one that can be hard for us anglers just to be intentional about when we're out there on the water. But it's something that, especially during, you know, the summertime period when a lot of these fish have seen a lot of baits, it's something that can just help you to get bit when it gets really, really tough. So in this video, we're going to talk about that. Now, before we do, for the next few days until the end of July 8th, I am running an Independence Day sale over on the Fin Fishing website. Basically, everything right now is 15% off, including the USA made sun shirt. So that's a high quality sun shirt, again, made here in the US. I think it comes out to be like $45. So one of the better prices for it that I've had. But anyways, links are down in the description. Everything is 15% off until July 8th. All right, let's talk about this little tip, this simple tip. But this is something that I think that if you live in states that see fisheries that have a lot of pressure, you just kind of hang on to certain things that have happened to you throughout the years. And what I mean by that is that I remember a long time ago, I was watching a tournament where Bill Lohen was doing really, really well in a specific Bassmaster Elite Series tournament. And he ended up catching a lot of fish on a 10.5-inch, 11-inch worm, but he was flipping and pitching it during the middle of summer in really shallow water. And I remember thinking how intriguing that was when I first had seen it and heard of it, because it was just like every time you heard of someone fishing a big worm, it was fishing it offshore, fishing it on rock piles, ledges, brush piles, things like that. So for him to be flipping and pitching it in shallow water, I thought was amazing at the time. And I remember him saying that this is something that he likes to do back home during the summer. And back home for Bill Lohen is like the Ohio River, which I'm not too far from. So I remember holding on to that and really thinking that sometimes the best way to catch fish isn't always necessarily a brand new lure. It is a lot of times simply fishing a lure that you know bass bite, but putting it into places that these bass don't typically see. You know, when we get to a lot of the bodies of water out there, we all do think similarly when we're out there on the water. Like you see a big grass flat, a lot of us are thinking, you know, chatterbait. You see a bunch of lily pads, maybe a lot of us are thinking a frog. Like there's like probably an 80-20 rule in that, where a lot of guys, when they see a lot of the exact same circumstances, they've read the same books, they've seen the same videos, they all think a lot of the exact same thing. So therefore the fish that are in those areas have seen a lot of the exact same things. They have seen a lot of the similar baits. And because there are only so many different baits out there, they may have seen the exact same lure over and over and over again. And I have seen myself growing up on a pond that if you present a bass with the same lure, even for a few days in a row, you will quickly see that those bass no longer respond to that bait. I remember growing up, like I said, in the pond that I grew up on, I remember really getting on a good spook bite, a Zara spook. The first time I ever really got on a Zara spook, this was when I was like 14 years old. And I was fishing this bait, and I mean, I absolutely clobbered the fish this one day, the first time I'd ever picked it up. And I remember going out that again that night, didn't catch as many, but still caught quite a few. And I remember for like the next 4 or 5 days in the summer, I fished nothing but a Zara spook. I was absolutely hooked with it. You know, that big explosion that was coming up, I was amazed by it. But it was very evident that every single day I was getting fewer and fewer bites. And the thing is that exact same thing happens in big lakes. These fish get used to the baits that you are throwing. They have seen them and they know not to eat them. And so the thing about it is that whenever you get to a body of water and you are given a certain circumstance, or given whatever the conditions may be, you're given where you're fishing, you can obviously pick up the lures that you are thinking about, that everyone else may be thinking about, and you might be able to catch some fish. But really, before you leave those areas, at least try a few oddball lures, ones that catch fish, but ones that people may not always fish in that exact same situation. And it can be sometimes as simple as going from a chatterbait in that grass flat to a spinnerbait or a square bill crankbait. Again, a chatterbait by far comes through grass better than those two baits. But if the bass have all seen that, heard that vibration, they're gonna get used to that thing. So simply switching it up sometimes can make a big difference. I know another big thing when it comes to specifically crankbait fishing is that when you think about, this is kind of a little sneaky thing, but when you think about a flat-sided crankbait, the majority of anglers out there in the world think about fishing a flat side in cold water. And that's what, because that's what you've been taught. You've been taught to I don't know why I said taught that when you're fishing in cold water, you want that tight wiggling action. So therefore you pick up those flat-sided crankbaits. But I'm telling you what, in the dead of summer, when you get into some of those lakes that maybe one of the best baits is a square bill. You know, there's a lake near me where a lot of guys throw square bills. There's riprap, there's wood cover. A lot of guys are throwing square bills. And it's easy for me to want to pick up like a 1.5, some more typical crankbait, wider crankbaits. But I'm telling you what, this time of the year, usually about into July, into August, you start kind of switching over to some of those flat-sided square bill crankbaits. I'm telling you, you will get so many more bites than other anglers, simply because you are presenting that fish with something different. And so whenever you're out there on the water, just remember that simple tip. Even if you fish a really good area, present them with something that is just different. This is one more thing I need to tell you, because this was something that amazed me back in the days. I was fishing this tournament, and me and another angler were fishing the exact same spot. And this was a college tournament years ago. And this particular spot was like 13, 14 foot deep, and we were catching some fish on some jigs and some Carolina rigs. And I remember this angler that he would come up there, and I tell you what, I would fish this spot till I couldn't get bit for a while, because I just didn't want anyone, if I was gonna catch a fish on it, I wanted it to be me, obviously. And I remember like we had another spot that was pretty close by, and I remember seeing this angler pull up, and like every day he would pull up and he would catch fish behind us. And it always frustrated me. Well, I got to become good friends with that angler, and lo and behold, he was fishing a weightless, wacky rigged Cinco on that spot. So in like 14 foot of water, he was letting this bait, he was casting this bait out, letting a Cinco fall all the way down to the bottom, and working it really slow off the bottom. Again, a lure that we know is so productive, but he was fishing it in a place that those bass had just not seen that. Not many guys are throwing a Cinco weightless in 14 foot of water. So just a quick little tip for you guys that I thought would just help you during this upcoming season, the end of July, August, September, when we get a lot of fishing pressure. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. See you in the next one. Don't forget to check out that fin fishing gear.